Good morning. It has been a little while since I've been on here, and so I'm going to skip ahead. I've been doing kind of a walkthrough of the book of Mark, but I'm going to skip ahead to Mark 5:39 because I think this is pretty telling, I guess, in what we have just experienced over the last week or so with all of the tragedy happening in Texas and the floods and that sort of thing. And this is a story about Jesus had been walking through the streets. Of course, there was a great crowd that had gathered around him, and he was being taken, or he was being guided, asked to come to the home of Jairus, who was kind of a court official, the religious court official. Anyway, he was going to his house because he had a little daughter that was dying, very, very sick. And so he knew, this court official knew that if Jesus came, he could do something about it. So Jesus was on his way to this man's house. But in the midst of all that, the crowds, they're coming around, they're pushing around Jesus. They want to be near him because he's got that something about him that draws them to himself, or to themselves. And so there's one woman. She is an outcast because she's had this issue of blood, this bleeding problem for years. And she's gone to multiple doctors and tried multiple remedies to fix her condition, but it just will not go away. And she is considered unclean because anybody who was bleeding was considered to be unclean. So she was kind of an outcast. She was kind of ignored and set aside, but she had faith. She saw Jesus coming through the crowd, and she knew in her heart that if she could just touch the hem of his garment, that she would be healed. And so in Mark 5:39, in Mark 5, before the previous verses, and then now up to this point, this woman, she comes, she pushes her way through the crowd, she touches the hem of his garment, and power goes out from him. And immediately Jesus says, "Who touched me?" All right. Well, that's kind of a crazy question when there are people pushing and shoving and touching you and brushing elbows with you because they want to be near you. But he knew someone had touched him, and it wasn't that he wanted to know so that he could shame this woman. It wasn't that he could point her out in the crowd and embarrass her in any way, because she was healed. But he knew there was great faith there, and so he found her. He realized, he figured out who it was. She admitted it was her, and he blessed her because of it. But here is where we get back to the story of Jairus. Because of all that, because of that waylay there, Jairus' little girl died. All right. And so the word starts spreading through the crowd that his daughter has died. And now at Mark 5:39, Jesus says this, "And after entering, he said to them, 'Why are you making a commotion and weeping? The child has not died, but is asleep.'" All right. So Jesus is told that the daughter has died, but he goes on to the house because he knows that death is not the last say. God has the last say. Death does not have the last say. So Jesus goes on into the house, and there's people there. They're weeping and crying, and he's telling them, "Why are you crying? She's just asleep." Of course, they start laughing at him because, of course, that is kind of an off comment when you know that there's someone that has physically passed away. But Jesus sees more than what we see. He sees the eternal aspect, and so she's not dead. Although she was physically dead, she was not completely dead because he's the Savior. He can raise anyone, right? So he goes up, he takes her parents and a few of his disciples, shuts everyone else out, and they go up, and he holds out his hand, and he takes her by the hand, and he says these words to her. He says, "Talitha cum," which means, "Little girl, I say to you, get up." And immediately she got up, and they were astonished. Think back now to the little girls who were lost in this flood. Those beautiful little girls who died in the floods last week, they also had the privilege of their Savior reaching down and taking their hand and hearing them say, "Little girl, arise." No more sadness, no more suffering, no more pain, no more fear, no more of turmoil from this world. they realize their glorious salvation, their glorious eternity with Jesus. And so, what about those, though, who are left behind? Because that's great for the ones who are saved, those who have chosen to follow Jesus. It's great for those. But what about the ones who are left behind? We're the ones that are left, holding the bag, holding the pieces, trying to move forward. Well, what about the parents? What about the grandparents, the brothers and the sisters? They too can know the peace which passes all understanding. Death does not have the final say, God does. And though death is hard and it's sad and it's horrific and it's scary, Christ defeated it on the cross. And you and I can truly know his real peace, his real healing, and his real comfort if we'll just put our faith and trust in him and believe that somehow his ways are higher. We don't understand why things happen. We only see a very limited portion, and we don't understand, but God has a greater plan in all of this, and he promises to work good out of the bad. He promises to take those broken pieces and put them back together and bring good out of that. He can and work those miracles within us and within everyone who's marred by death's ravenous waves. He can display those good things that can come out of such tragedy, and those losses will not be in vain. So as we continue to move forward, because honestly, the world does not stop. When a tragedy happens, the world keeps on going, life keeps on going, time keeps on ticking. It stops often for those who are involved in it, but for the rest of us, life continues on. There will be more tragedies, there will be more heartache, there will be more sorrow, because we live in a broken world. But here's the thing, if we put our faith and trust in Jesus, we know that if something happens bad to us, Jesus will be right there with us in the midst of all of that, and he will walk us through that, and he will get us to the other side. We just have to keep our eyes on him. All right, have a great day, y'all.